Now let's go through some of the fundamentals on knot tying. If here we have a 1/2 inch rope, this is a rope that you're a little more familiar with. Like I say, this is used for your hand lines, and of course it's also used for a safety line, so the minimum size has to be 1/2 inch. I think this 1/2 inch rope will be a little bit easier to show you some of the basic hitches and knots. Remember that a hitch is a speedy fastening. You see, it's going to have the least strength of all your knots and so on. Okay, some of the basic terms you need to know. This would be a bite. This would be the running end. Another one that you would have to know would be like a round turn. This would be a round turn. Another one is just a turn, or sometimes you'll hear it, I think your lineman's handbook refers to that as a loop. But a lot of your knots and so on are going to have one of those three basic forms of hitches. One of the more simpler of your knots, of course, is going to be a square knot. If I was to tie this rope in a square knot, I would tie it such that my sides of my rope are going to be facing one another. In other words, this would be considered a square knot. And of course, a square knot you can use when you're splicing up, or say fastening ropes of equal size. If I was to fasten a rope of unequal size, let's say for example that I've got a larger rope that I want to fasten onto. When I fasten this rope on, I would want to make what we call a sheet bend. In other words, we're fastening two ropes of unequal size together. Now this would be a sheet bend. If I would run this through, instead of running it back through and making a square knot out of it, I'll run it back through the side. And this would be considered a sheet bend. I can make a double sheet bend out of that by running it through twice. And if rope was extremely small, I might have to run it through twice. That would be a double sheet bend. Okay. Now, another knot that you want to be familiar with is a bowline. And there's several different forms of bowline, but this would be the basic bowline. I make a round turn in my line, then I go through my eye, back around, and then back into my eye again, and then I pull it tight. Now, the nice part about this knot, like I say, is it won't tighten up. Another one now is a timber hitch, where I come around my running line and then I wrap this end of my rope around itself a few times like this, and that would be a timber hitch. And a timber hitch is used on say to grab a hold of round surfaces. Because when this pulls up tight on an object, what it does, it actually tightens itself, holds itself when you wrap it like that. Okay. Now, one set of hitches that you use is to put a half hitch on top of a cross arm and the timber hitch down below, and then you raise your cross arms with those hitches. In other words, you open your hand line up, stand your cross arm up in the position that it has to go up to the lineman. Then you put a timber hitch on the bottom and a half hitch on top. And when you run your cross arm through this, and around the hitch on top. Then you pull that up to the lineman. The lineman, when he gets it up to him, what he'll do is he'll grab a hold of the crossarm, pin, take the half hitch off the top after you slack off. Then you start pulling up from the ground again, and then you can pull the end of the crossarm up to him. It makes it much easier for the lineman, you see. Okay. Now there's a lot of hitches that you might use on hooks so that you can protect the sling. What you can do is take your sling, if you're going to hook it in say a hook on a winch line, you can take these and twist them around like this, and what you're doing, you're making a what they call catspaw. And then of course your hook would go through this part right here, right where my hand is here. And what it does, it keeps the sling from shifting, you see, and also has more strength than to just run your line right up through the hook. A little more strength, a little more protection for the sling. Okay. Now another one is to take what they call a black wall hitch. And there, if this is your hook, you come around through your hook like this. That would be a black wall. Now this would be a double black wall. If I just came around through it like this, if I just came through my hook like this, then that would be a black wall right there. Here's my hook. I'm pulling on my sling like this. There's another one, if I can get it in the picture here. There's another one for shortening up a rope. If I want to shorten up a rope without cutting it, of course, what I can do is use what we call a sheep shank. In other words, I can put a hitch in this end, and then go down here on this end, put another hitch in, like this, and then what I can do, I can pull on that rope. If I want a little more strength on it, what I can do is tie these loops down. I can lash them down like that. But you see what I've got here is I've got a round turn, or I've got not a round turn, but I've got a turn here and a turn there with bites stuck in either end. And what that'll do is hold on to my rope when I pull on it. It's a way of shortening it up without cutting it. Another one now is a bowline on a bite. What I do is with two of my lines now, I make a round turn. Then I stick my blade up through, come around, grab a hold of my loop, and then we'll have a bowline on a bite. I guess sometimes they use knots like this in rescue where they can open this up and stick the guy's shoulders into this and they can rescue him with that.